Hey besties, welcome back to Manifest with Beth. So the next few videos I'm going to be doing suggestion videos that people are wanting me to talk about. This one is going to be about, so she asked, throughout the day between saying you have something, are you constantly affirming in your head? Is this something we have to do for the rest of our lives? And to add on to that, if you require something fast, do you suggest robotic affirming, or is that just another belief? So I'm going to try to simplify this for everyone and make it in a way that we can all understand. So let's get down to why we affirm in the first place. Affirming isn't about forcing something to happen, but it's about teaching your mind a new normal, reprogramming, rewiring, creating a new identity for ourselves. Now, most people have spent years repeating their old story without even realizing it. Maybe it's thoughts like, things never work out for me, I never have enough money, people always leave me, I'm unlucky. Those are also affirmations. They're just not favorable ones, right? So when you start consciously affirming something new, you're not doing anything strange. You're just replacing the autopilot script you've had for years. But before I get any further, I do want to, for most of you who watch my TikToks, any of my other videos, you might already have heard me say this, but affirming in general is just conscious thinking. It's the thoughts that you are aware of, the ones that you notice and you persist in. So, if I'm aware of myself thinking, SP doesn't want to be with me, I don't have the money in my account, my success ain't here, nobody likes to be around me, whatever. Those are affirmations. I am consciously thinking that. I am affirming it in my head. Your words are also affirmations. Now, affirming in general, not a technique. So you will always be affirming. I think now that you're consciously aware of manifesting, though, it might feel more of a chore just because you're aware of it. Like, affirming is not a scary thing. Please don't think that it's a scary thing, and don't be scared that, am I going to have to do this for the rest of my life? You're always affirming. It's something you've always done. Now you're just aware of it, that it creates your reality. But again, affirming in general, just conscious thinking. Robotic affirming, focused affirming, those are techniques, and no, I'll dig deeper into that later. But no, you will not have to do that for the rest of your life. Do you need to affirm all day long? No. You do not need to robotically affirm all day long. You do not have to be trying to force yourself to persist in the new story all day long. It's not something you need to do 24/7. Your mind is always thinking. Always. You have already been having internal conversations all day. It's not something new. Again, we're just aware of it now. Affirming is just choosing what those conversations talk about now. Okay? So, conscious thinking. Let's think in our favor. Okay? It's not about repeating affirmations nonstop. It's about redirecting yourself when you drift into old assumptions. So, whenever you catch yourself going back to the old story that you don't want to experience any longer, that's when we redirect and reaffirm. Okay? You do not have to robotically affirm, but it is a great tool that a lot of people like to use. But I want you to think of it as switching the channel. So when you catch yourself tuning into a station you don't want, you just switch back. You simply just switch back to the channel that you do want to experience. All right, now let's get back to the question, do I have to do this forever? I do feel like this is a common fear. The answer is no, you don't have to do this forever. I do think that at the beginning it feels like effort because you're breaking habits, but eventually the new thoughts become natural. It's your default. The assumptions you want become your default. So the automatic thoughts that, you just automatically go to. Like right now you have a default mode, but it might be the old story that you don't want to experience. Like, nothing ever works out for me. That's your default mode right now. And we want to switch it to no, everything does work out for me. So, just like you don't remind yourself how to walk once you've learned, you won't constantly remind yourself of your new self-concept once it's solid. So once you've laid the foundation, it's there, it's solid, it's not going anywhere. As long as you stick to the assumption that it's yours and you don't go back to the old self. Now, what affirming kind of looks like day to day for me is, I decide what I want. I assume it's mine. When old thoughts pop up, I redirect and then I go on about my day. Now, I do still like to robotically affirm. Don't get me wrong, I do. 100% I do. But even if I do decide, I'm deciding right now, okay, I am very successful. Okay. I'm sticking to that. I'm going on about my day. And then, I notice someone that's way more successful than me, and then doubt creeps in, and I'm like, dang, I wish I was successful like that. Like, I am not successful at all. That's never going to be me. I'm going to be like, wait, hold up. No, that's not true. I am successful. I have the success. I have everything I want. I'm still affirming in my favor. Like, it's not just like you decide once and it's done, bam, you don't do anything ever again. And, we're always going to have doubts and negative thoughts. That's normal. But it's about, not persisting in those doubts and negative thoughts and choosing the new story to persist in. But, I'm not sitting here chanting affirmations for 14 hours, okay? I am simply staying loyal to the version of myself who already has what they want. That's it. So anytime I do get doubts or negative thoughts, I'm like, no, that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. I'm not accepting that reality for myself. I am the successful version of myself, and I am them now. And I just remind myself throughout the day. Now back to I think the other question was, are we affirming in our head during the day? Yeah, like I said before, affirming is just conscious thoughts. It's natural. It's something we've always done. But it's not about being mentally glued to the affirmations, but just about gently shifting when needed. So like I said, whenever doubt arises, I'm just going to shift, be like, nope, I have it. I'm going to shift back to thinking favorably, to the assumption I want to experience. You might go hours feeling completely normal, not thinking about your desire at all. Then an old thought shows up like, what if it doesn't happen? Any type of thought. What if it doesn't happen? What if they don't love me? What if this doesn't work out? What if, right? It's usually a lot of what if thoughts. I don't entertain what if thoughts, honestly, at this point. I'm just kind of like, no, there is no what if. It's my reality. There is only this is going to happen. But anyways, if you get a thought of like, what if it doesn't happen? What if it doesn't work? That's when I'm going to respond with, no, it's already mine. And I'm going to continue with my day. But I might robotically affirm. Like I said, I still like robotically affirming. But, it's simply about shifting our awareness. Our state. Everything is pretty much the awareness, the state. It's all the same. Your focus, what you're dominantly thinking about. Like right now, if you're thinking, I don't have this thing, your awareness is on the lack. You don't have it yet. That's what you're aware of. That's what you're focusing on. That's what, you're dominantly thinking. More than likely. So I'm going to shift it to, no, it is mine. I'm going to shift my state. State and awareness is pretty much the same thing. But, I'm just going to shift states to, no, I do have it. It is mine. Now I'm in the state of fulfillment instead of the state of lack. Okay. And then the add-on was, if you want something quickly, should you robotically affirm, or is that just another belief? I personally do have the assumption that if I saturate my mind, I'm going to get it quicker. But that assumption, that belief is different for everybody. It really depends on your own beliefs. But for me, yeah, saturating is just affirming, or, saturating is, any kind of mental rehearsal. So it could be affirming, visualizing, scripting, whatever. I use affirming to saturate. But, it's just like long periods of affirming. It's not something you have to do. But if I want something quickly, yeah, I'm a saturate. But, if you want something fast, you don't have to robotically affirm. But, the way I look at it is robotic affirming works because repetition rewires our assumptions. You don't need emotion. You don't need visualization. You don't need to feel spiritual or magical or any certain type of way. Your brain just learns through repetition. So just like memorizing a phone number or learning to drive, the more you repeat a thought, the easier it becomes for your mind to accept it as normal. So, robotic affirming is simply a tool. You don't have to use it. It's a preference. It really is a preference. But it can, I think it can speed up how quickly your mind absorbs the new belief. Because if you're what the heck? If you're persisting in a new thought, I'm not even going to edit that out. I'm sorry, guys. I'm tired. But if you are persisting in that new assumption and you're robotically affirming for it, then I scientifically proven too. It's not just my assumption, but it's backed by science that repetition helps you create a new neural pathway and helps you create a belief. So, if I'm over here robotically affirming for it, I'm going to assume, if I saturate my mind, I'm going to get it quickly. Robotic affirming works for the same reason that habit forming works. Your subconscious doesn't care if what you repeat feels exciting or boring. It just absorbs whatever has been repeated the most. So your dominant thoughts, it just takes in, you know, if I'm constantly repeating, oh, nothing ever works out for me, your subconscious is going to be like, okay, yes, you're correct. Nothing ever works out for you. And then it's going to reflect into the 3D exactly that. It's going to show up in ways to prove that assumption to be true for you. So, you know, robotic affirming is a direct way to saturate the mind. Absolutely, 100%. Now, you can do you can use robotic affirming, like if you're anxious, you feel unsure, your mind is racing, when you want to drown out the old thoughts, the old story, when you want faster saturation, like if you want your shit quickly, or, you know, if you're just trying to build a new assumption quickly. It's pretty much all the same thing. But, like, you can absolutely use robotic affirming. It's not mandatory. It's simply available whenever you need like an extra push. Because anytime I just felt like, especially when like the old story was very loud, I would robotically affirm. I would even rampage out loud. And rampaging is simply just, you know, you can do it out louder in your head, but it's just thinking in your favor. So if it's about money, it's like, I'm going to be rampaging out loud about, I do have a lot of money. I always have more than enough money. I get paid to exist. My bills are paid. My debt is paid. Everything's paid. My bank account is full. I have hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I'm going to be thinking in my favor about money. You know, that's what a rampage is. But, you know, you are not doing this for the rest of your life. You're doing it until this new belief becomes your identity. Once your self-concept shifts, affirming becomes natural and effortless. Effortless? Okay. It becomes who you are. Like, that's just how it is. It becomes your new identity. It becomes who you are, because what you think about most is who you become. So whatever you're persisting in, whatever thoughts you're persisting in, is the identity you take on. So if you're constantly telling yourself, oh, me and SP aren't together, okay, then you and SP aren't together. That's your identity. That's just how it is. If you're, you know, your dominant thoughts are, I always have more than enough money, okay, then you always have more than enough money. I am wealthy, then you're wealthy. Like, that's just what it is. What you think about most is who you become. So, you know, if you're someone who is constantly just victim mentality over here, like, and I understand, I've been there, I've done that, don't want to go back, never will. But yeah, if you're definitely in victim mentality a lot, and that's just the story you're persisting in and sticking with, that's who you are. Until you decide to shift one day and you're just like, no, that's not who I am anymore. I'm going to persist in the new version of me that, you know, is very stable and secure in myself. And I'm not a victim. Like, until you make that decision, that's just who you're going to be. So pretty much just a simple little breakdown. You don't need to affirm all day. You can redirect when needed. You won't do this forever. You do it until your new story feels normal. You know, you expect it. This is just who you are now. Robotic affirming is just a fast option if you do want to saturate your mind quickly. You're not forcing your desire to appear. You're teaching your mind that it's already yours. You know, you're reprogramming, rewiring. You're just telling your mind, this is how it is now. This is mine. This is mine, until it hardens into fact. Okay. I think that's it. I think that covered it. Let me read this one more time. So, are you constantly affirming in your head? Okay, no. I feel like I covered that, but just in case, like, I'm not constantly robotically affirming, no. You can. Like, anytime you think about your desire, you could just think in your favor about it. You know, don't overcomplicate it, don't overthink it. And if you require something fast, you know, I mean, if I do want something fast, I do saturate. I do like to saturate, but I do feel like I answered everything and I covered everything in that. But remember, like, affirming in general, just conscious thinking, you're always affirming anyway. Your words are affirmations. Just think in your favor. Think in your favor. As long as your dominant thoughts are your preferred outcome, like your preferred experience, you're good, you're golden, you're Gucci, you got this, okay? Just make sure your dominant thoughts are what you actually want to experience. There was probably a lot of mistakes in this video. Again, I am very tired. Okay. Yeah, I think, yeah, okay. Until next time, if you feel like you need one-on-one coaching, my link is in my bio, and please feel free to share, comment, like, and subscribe, so that way I can get out to other people who may need help with the law of assumption, you know, help creating their own dream life. I'm going to bed now. I'm not redoing this video. Enjoy the laughs.